Hello, everybody! I'm Ramsis, and we're back for another edition of Ramsis Retro Longplays. That's right. And, I like to mix it up. Sometimes I give you action games, sometimes I give you role-playing games, sometimes I give you DS games, and sometimes I give you strategy or simulation games. Well, it's time for another simulation game. It is SimCity, that's right, the Super Nintendo version, released in 1991. And what an amazing game this was. This was a release game for the Super Nintendo, came out at the same time the system on the market. I bought it right away. I already had SimCity on, yep, that's right, if you know me well, you should know a computer. I had SimCity on the Amiga. I had the Amiga version of SimCity, and it was a lot of fun, so I was very familiar with SimCity. This is much better. They add a lot of great elements into this game. It has that Nintendo charm. They make such good use of showing off the 16-bit graphics of the system. And the music's great, and they have a lot of little nods to Nintendo. And we'll get to all that eventually, but we're going to do the scenarios here. And we'll still do a city after. I think, in some of them I'm like, oh, we're just going to do challenges. Like when I played School Tycoon, we just did the challenges because that was a way to show the whole game. I think for this one, we're going to do the scenarios, and then we're going to do a city, just to show you how it is to build a city. And there is a infamous money cheat code in this. We're not going to use that for the scenarios, but I think when we do our own city, we'll do that just to save time. Otherwise, we'll be here forever waiting for money to build. So that's a ways away, but I think for now, this long play is going to be Ramses shows you how to beat all the scenarios, because I think it is a cool aspect of the game. Everyone just jumps right into building a city, and they don't realize, hey, there's some fun scenarios that give you an idea of some of the challenges that you can do in this game. And I think with a little bit of storyline, scenarios do help out. So before we get to that, we have to, of course, get into a little history of SimCity, because that's what we do here. We talk about series, we talk about games, we talk about retro goodness, and I think SimCity is one of those games that deserves all the talk it can muster. But we'll first start by talking about the Super Nintendo version. So, as I mentioned, it was released in North American markets in August of 1991. Maxis, the company behind the original SimCity, did have a lot of input and help in this. Pretty much Nintendo bought out the game, but Maxis had full control over making sure the game was a proper representation of what it was supposed to be. And it was a launch title. Like I said, it was originally available the second the Super Nintendo was on the market in 1991. So too was SimCity, along with what are the games? Pilot Wings, Super Mario World, F-Zero, and what a great way to show the system. So SimCity, what exactly is SimCity? Well, it's pretty much exactly like the PC versions. You take control of a blank plot of land, and then you gotta build up a city. Your goal is to try to get it to be a Megalopolis. That means 500,000 people now inhabit your region, and it's very hard to get to that because you're limited on the amount of land you can use, you're limited on resources, you have to make sure everybody's happy, you gotta make money, you gotta keep all the crime down, you gotta make sure that people aren't complaining, you gotta have every single asset, you gotta keep pollution, you gotta keep traffic. It is a real city management game, but you too can reach 500,000 if you're persistent enough and keep at it. And again, using the money cheat doesn't hurt, because money is the hardest aspect of this game. Getting money, you can do it, but it takes a very long time to build up a lot of money. So this is one of those games, if you want to do it the real way that the game intended, you just pretty much have to go like 1,000 years, and I'm not kidding, like 1,000 years in this game, then hey, then you can make enough money to do what you want. So it's one of those games that you gotta really just piecemeal together, go slowly with it. But what's the great thing about the Super Nintendo version? Well, they give you special buildings. So these are not found in other versions prior to this. In later versions of SimCity, yes, they add in all these little aspects because they realize, hey, that was great, Nintendo really came up with a good idea. Well, in this version, it sort of started it, alright? And I'm not gonna hold myself to that. Maybe there was another SimCity version that had this stuff, but Super Nintendo version is the one that's most notorious for it. So you get things like a house, the mayor's house, you can plop in the territory, and that helps increase land value. You can get things like a zoo, a casino, parks, banks, statues, libraries, windmills. I mean, you can put all this stuff into your city, and it helps with various things. Like, they even give you a train station that'll help you have trains running in various directions. just all these nice little add-ons add a nice element, because the previous version, like the one I played on Amiga, definitely did not have all these little freebies that you got when you were playing the game. So it added a nice little extra that you really wanted to play this, because it's like, oh cool, now I have some gold, now I have some things to unlock, it's gonna be fun, it has a great soundtrack, it has easy controls using the new Super Nintendo controller, the L and R buttons, these are great. So yeah, it was that type of game, and really there's no real ending to it, it's just get to Megalopolis, build your ultimate city, and then when you've done that, well, then you can try it all over again. It's really one of those type of games that, like, you're not going to get end credits for reaching it. You're just going to feel very rewarded and really self-triumphant that you did it, and that's what we're going to do. But before we get there, we are going to go through all the scenarios, because I think that is the real charm of the game, because every SimCity had scenarios in it, and I think they're all similar to these. There might be a little differences in some of them, but the core of them were all pretty much the same. And why did they do it? Because game developers back in the late 80s, when this game was out in 1989, felt like you have to offer something more than just like a build your own whatever. Like, yeah, it's fun, oh wow, you're plopping down boxes, but there has to be more to the game if people are going to buy it. And I don't know how true this is. I don't know how true this is, because this is one of those games that it's just fun doing sandbox mode, and this game sort of started the whole idea of sandboxing it. You get to build it, you get to enjoy it, you can destroy it, you can do whatever you want with it, that's the whole game. But that's not how games were sold back then. So you had to throw in storyline, you had to have something else, and that's why the scenarios were thrown in. It gives you challenges, because those do have endings. If you meet the goals of the scenario, you get a congratulations, you have done it, now move on to the next level type of reward. So that's why the scenarios are in this, to give you a little more bang for your buck. And I think the scenarios also add a little bit depth to the game. You can build your own city, but if you really want to learn the city, then you pretty much should do the scenarios, because that will teach you all the little tricks on how to manage it. Some of the stuff's unrealistic, because you're not going to have all this happening, and we'll get to that in a bit, what these scenarios are, but most of it you will have to deal with. Alright, so I think that's all out of the way now, but I do also want to give just a little bit of history of the original SimCity. Alright, so the original SimCity was created by Will Wright, who worked on a game for Broderbond called Raid on Bungling Bay. Alright, so in that game you get to use a helicopter and you're going to islands, and the most fun Will was having was not the game itself, but it was like exploring all these islands as he created it on the then archaic level designer, but he had so much fun doing it. He said, wow, what if the game was just designing cities and environments and islands and things like that? That's how it all came to be, and he came up with this whole city builder, and it was very archaic. The first version's on our favorite, yep, the Commodore 64, and people didn't take to it. You know, it was very basic, it was pretty much simplistic. It's like, I don't get it, you're just putting some boxes on the screen, you don't even have any, like, real aesthetics to it, it's a boring game, and people didn't like it. So in 1985, it really just bombed, and that was it. It was put on the shelf. It's, oh, well, that's the end of it, who cares? No one will think again of it. But then all of a sudden, they dusted it off again. They said, why don't we try it again? Let's add some aesthetics to it. Let's make it a little better. And they re-released it again in 1989. This time they added scenarios. This time they added a little more life to it. And suddenly it was a sleeper hit. So sometimes you never know what it's going to take to the market. You know, I got the Amiga version. I loved it. I was very happy with the Amiga version. But is it as good as Super Nintendo? No, I think the Super Nintendo version is the greatest. So really, that's the history of the game. Will Wright just pretty much, while playing another game, decided, hey, I like this idea, why don't we make a game out of that? And then the rest is history. And Will Wright now is one of those famous known designers. SimCity's in the Hall of Fame. You know, it's well known. Everyone loves SimCity. You see this and you get all excited. Believe me, Will Wright more than paid the way. And it all started just because he decided that the city editor from Raid on Bungling Bay was more fun than the game itself. And boy, was he right. And what a franchise the Sim franchise has become. And now owned by EA, who bought out Maxis. The Sims is really a spin-off of SimCity. I'll bet you don't realize that when you say The Sims. Yeah, that's based off of SimCity. The whole idea of you're simulating a world of people from SimCity. Yeah, it's all connected, you know. And we might look at some other Sim games. Maybe we'll do Sim Earth, Sim Ant, Sim Tower, Sim Health. There's a whole line of Sim games that I've always wanted to look at. Sim Earth is one of my favorite, but that is a long game. But we'll figure out if we're going to do that or not. But I really would like to, also on the Super Nintendo. But anyway, we'll get to that in the future. All right, enough of my blathering. Let's get on with the review. We're going to now do the scenarios of SimCity. That'll be the first part of it, and then we'll do an actual city for the next part of it, alright? I think that'll be a fun little long play here on Ramsis Retro Longplay. So before we get into it, yes, it is that time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell so we can bring you a lot more where this came from. Check us out on the main channel we're spun off from. Of course, don't forget, we are a spin-off of Vesper's Retro Reviews, where Retro is alive and well and not going anywhere anytime soon. Time to push start. Here we go. Alright, so when you get to this screen, you get, besides the lively music, the "yep, you're about to do it" music, yeah, go for it. You get practice, start a new city, select scenario. So practice is a very, very tiny island, and it really is just a practice. It's going to give you tips, it's going to let you build the city. It's a very small island, so you don't get to do much, but it's a great way to learn how to play the game. And I think that was brilliant because going from a PC version to a console version, there's definitely differences. You know, you're using a controller instead of a mouse and a keyboard. It's a very different arrangement. You know, even though there was a mouse eventually on the Super Nintendo, they didn't know that was going to happen when they built SimCity. So this is a controller, a brand new controller that people aren't used to yet. We're all used to the 2-button controller on the NES. Now we have a 6-button controller on the Super Nintendo. So yeah, it's a big learning curve. Because remember, this was a release game when the system came out. So the practice mode is great if you want to learn how to do this. But we're not going to do that because we're pretty much just going to show you how everything goes in scenario mode. Start new city is exactly that, and we will do that after. They have 2,000 maps, and you might be saying, Ramsis, that's not possible. It's only 1,000 maps. It goes from 000 to 999. That's 1,000. Yes, but there's a little weird glitch in the game, and I don't know how this happens. I'm sure the computer experts out there realize fully. If you start a city with one of the map numbers and then quit the game and you come back to that same screen again, a different map will now show up on the exact number that you picked. It's a weird feature in the game, so technically there are 2,000 maps, so you have to be willing to keep doing that with every single number to see what the other one is. It's a very long and tedious process, and I never did that. I only found out way later that this was even a feature in the game. I had no idea there was extra maps by quitting and then you find another map on the same number as long as you go back to the same number again. So I didn't know that, but sure enough, there are 2,000 maps, but realistically 1,000 if you don't realize that there's 2,000. And then there's scenario mode. That's what we're going to do during this long play. So this was in all the versions of SimCity because they needed a hit hook. They needed a reason for you to buy this besides just building it, because everyone thought, oh, it's going to suck with just that Commodore version where you're just plopping things down. You need real robust stuff in it. So this is what they came out with. So every SimCity has had it. And this has become a mainstay of SimCity 2 as well. You know, SimCity 2000, 3004. I'm not sure about the latest one that they made just called SimCity again, the 5th one. But I know original through 4 had scenarios in it, and it definitely added a lot of depth to the game by doing that. But these are the first ones, so let's push start here. So it all starts with San Francisco earthquake, 1906. So it's actually in chronological order too. For the most part, you have a little jump there, but it's pretty much from past to future. Because even now, we still have one that takes place in the future. Even here in the 2020s, we still have one scenario that actually takes place in the 2040s. So hey, we still have a future to look forward to here. You know, most games we play here in the retro, when they do the future, it's always like 2020, 2015, and that's in the past now, which is hard to believe, but yeah, we're already past all that. Nope, not this game. We're in the 2040s if you want to go that far. So the first scenario is called San Francisco Earthquake 1906, and let's click on it and see what the storyline for our first challenge will be. San Francisco, USA, 1906. A major earthquake rattles the city by the bay. The subsequent fires burn for several days after the quake, causing massive damage. As mayor, build fire stations near the major fires and restore power as quickly as possible before you try to rebuild. You only have 5 years before the residents will demand a new mayor. Alright, so pretty much get the city under control and have it growing again after you clean up the mess. So build fire stations. That is the first challenge of scenario. So let's get right into it. Alright, so you can see we are already a metropolis because we have over 100,000 people. And there's always this weird loading screen. I know it's even on the Super Nintendo, they had that weird electric buzzing everywhere because it was loading. That was the loading information. It wasn't that there was no power, it's that it's loading. It's weird that on a Super Nintendo that's how they did it, but that is how they did it. So, here we go. Alright, good. So everything's built now. So now we gotta wait until the fires happen. Because pretty much everything's great. Hey, we don't have to worry about anything. There's nothing happening. So pretty much we have to wait until the fires happen. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna speed it up a little bit. So this is the game speed option. You can pause the game, slow mode, which is what we're on now, regular, and then running super fast speed. That's what we're gonna do. I'll show you some of the other options while we have it under the hood here. Auto bulldoze, that'll destroy everything. Auto budget, that will automatically accept any budget you do. Auto go to, we want that. And background music, that's what we have right now. You can do disasters. This is all the information you'll need in the game. Map, graph, text, voice, total, history. If you get any presents, it'll come here. And viewing the city, alright? So that's for all that. This is where you can save, load, exit. And this is where you get advice. Good job! Your fine city is growing nicely. I don't see any problems at the moment, so let's keep up the good work. And then a magnifying glass, where you can see what type of developments you have. Because don't forget, the residential, commercial, and industrial districts all have levels. And the higher the level, the better they are. So you see this is a C1, that's low, but this is an R4, that's high. But medium high, right? There's also upper, and then there's just housing like this, and then there's high, alright? So low, medium, high, not all of them have it. Like industrial only has low and high. I think commercial has all three, and I think residential has low, medium, upper, and high. So yeah, it goes all over the map with these developments, alright? But now we're on super fast mode, so now we just have to wait. So you can zoom around by pushing the A button. You hold down A, and then you can go in any direction you want, right? B button will activate things. You go to the screen, you can pick any of these things to build. And up here on the upper right, that's important too, that's the RCI meter. That shows demand. Is there demand for residential, commercial, or industrial? And there's different reasons why this will change. Alright, here we go. Crime warning. Well, that doesn't matter. That's not what the scenario is about. But let's see what it says. Crime alert. The crime rate in the city is beyond acceptable levels. The residents want to reclaim their neighborhoods and are willing to take matters into their own hands. You better build some police stations fast. Alright, so why don't we see... Alright, 5 years complete scenario, so scenario starting. Before that happens, why don't we see the map? What exactly is happening here with the crime? What are they talking about? Alright, so it takes a while to load. So crime is this one with the gun and the knife. Yes, you can see that crime really is very bad here. Yes, crime is bad. So I think we will put... Let's get rid of a hospital. I know, oh, Ramsis, you're destroying a hospital. Don't worry, there's one right across the street. It'll be alright. Alright, and then we'll build a police station here. That'll help with crime, right? Even though that's not the scenario, we don't want to deal with it. Alright, they're saying we require an airport. We'll wait, because we're going to have to do a lot of rebuilding here. So we don't want to overspend right now. But what we can do to save money is get rid of excess road. You see all these weird roads going all over the place? You don't need that. And for every bit of road or rail you have to pay maintenance on it. So if you want to save money, getting rid of excess stuff like this is a great way to do it. You don't need all this stuff, you know? Extra roads should be removed, especially in scenarios, because they throw them everywhere. Alright, and what else? Like, this gridlock is terrible. I mean, look at that. Look at the traffic here. But I did destroy a little connection, so we'll fix that. Even though technically you don't have to, but we will. Technically, as long as something is touching something, it works. But that we're not gonna do that. Alright, so let's get rid of this gridlock here. There we go. So while we're waiting for the fires, we're just gonna clean up the city a little bit. That's all. I mean, look at all this. This is horrible. Oh, there it is. There's the earthquake. Okay, so let's see what it says. Earthquake! Crash! Boom! Bam! A major earthquake has shaken your fine city to ruins. Major fires are burning out of control. Put out the fires and restore power to all zones before you begin to rebuild your city to its past glory. So first thing we have to do is put out the fires. Second thing, rebuild the electric grid, and then get everything back in order so we can win the scenario. Here we go. So now we're going to pause it. And we're going to save it for next time. So that was the introduction to SimCity, yes. So that is a nice little teaser. You guys will have something to look forward to next time. We're going to do the scenario in full next time. It shouldn't take too long. We'll probably even move on to the next one next time if we're able to do it. But that was just a nice little history of SimCity. A a little bit of startup of SimCity, and then we saw the scenario unfold with the earthquake happening, and that's it. We're gonna leave it all for next time. You know, I've done this before, and especially in my Civilizations playthrough, I always wet your whistle, and then it's like, you gotta wait till next time. That's what we do here on Ramsis Retro Longplays. You want to come on back for more, and we'll give you more of the goodness. You gotta see it next time. Alright, so next time we will handle the earthquake scenario. This time I'm gonna say, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell if you like what CS saying to say. Hopefully you guys do. Check us out on our main channel, Vesta's Retro Reviews, where retro is alive and well, and not going anywhere anytime soon. See you all next time for part 2 of SimCity 1991 game on the Super Nintendo. All the scenarios, we are gonna beat them all. I guarantee it. See you then. Goodbye, everybody.